Have you ever met someone like this? They always smile. They're polite. They never get angry. Never raise their voice. Never say anything that might hurt you. They seem perfect, like a gentle light in a harsh world. And so, you trust them. But Carl Jung, the master of the human shadow, warned us long ago. Beware of unearned virtue. He wasn't saying that kindness is fake. He was saying, kindness that has never wrestled with darkness is dangerous. Because when someone is always nice, always agreeable, always good, it usually means they've buried something. And what we bury doesn't disappear. It festers. Jung believed that people who have never faced their own darkness, who have never integrated their shadow, are not harmless. They are simply unaware of how dangerous they truly are. The most dangerous people in the world are the ones who think they have no darkness. Chapter 1. The Cult of Niceness. In modern society, niceness has become a currency. We're taught to be agreeable, pleasant, and emotionally neutral. We praise the ones who smile through everything, who never argue, who make themselves small to keep the peace. But beneath that surface, something deeply troubling often lurks: repression. And Jung saw repression as the seed of the unconscious shadow. Society doesn't reward people for being whole. It rewards people for being palatable. And so, many of us learn to split off the parts of ourselves that are deemed ugly: anger, jealousy, pride, sadness, even ambition. We hide them behind a smile. We smooth out the edges. We become the person others find easy to like. But here's the danger. Every part of you that you disown doesn't die. It waits. And over time, the more nice we become, the more disconnected we grow from the truth of our own emotions. We become strangers to ourselves. We perform goodness rather than embody it. Carl Jung believed that no one becomes truly good without first confronting the capacity for evil within themselves. To him, niceness without depth was not virtue. It was theater. A man who is unconscious of himself acts in a blind, instinctual way. Chapter 2. Carl Jung and the Shadow Self. To understand Jung's warning about too nice people, we need to explore one of his most central concepts: the shadow self. The shadow is everything within us that we reject, deny, or hide. It is the unacknowledged, unaccepted part of the psyche. It contains our anger, selfishness, envy, lust, aggression, but also our power, creativity, and instincts. It is not inherently evil. It is simply what we do not wish to see in ourselves. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." People who are always nice often do not believe they have a shadow. They think, "I'm not angry. I'm not envious. I don't have a dark side." But denial doesn't erase the shadow. It just drives it deeper. In fact, the more we repress our shadow, the more it controls us from the unconscious. And it often emerges in subtle, insidious ways: passive aggressiveness, manipulation, guilt-tripping, or sudden emotional outbursts that surprise even ourselves. Jung observed that the people who have not faced their own darkness often project it onto others. They see bad people everywhere. They gossip, judge, and moralize while imagining themselves as pure and righteous. But they are not free. They are ruled by a darkness they refuse to name. The path to true wholeness, Jung believed, requires integration. To face the shadow, name it, and accept it as a part of ourselves. This is not a path for the faint of heart. It demands courage, honesty, and deep inner work. But without it, we are not truly good. We are just well-behaved. And often, dangerously so. Chapter 3. The Psychology of Repressed Rage. Repressed rage is one of the most common and destructive manifestations of the shadow. When someone denies their anger, it doesn't vanish. It goes underground. It simmers, waiting for moments to escape through sarcasm, quiet sabotage, or emotional withdrawal. The person may appear calm on the surface, but their body, mind, and relationships betray a different story. Carl Jung emphasized that confronting one's capacity for rage is essential for psychological growth. Not to act it out, but to understand where it comes from and why it's there. Repressed rage is often inherited, passed down from parents who never express their own anger, from cultures that punish confrontation, from systems that reward obedience over honesty. When someone is always nice, their kindness might be built upon years of swallowed pain. And the longer pain is swallowed, the more pressure it creates. Eventually, it erupts not always in violence, but often in self-sabotage, anxiety, depression, or cruelty disguised as righteousness. Chapter 4. Fake light, when virtue becomes a mask. Not all virtue is genuine. Some of it is worn like a costume. Jung observed that people can use morality as a defense against self-awareness. They wrap themselves in the appearance of virtue, so they don't have to confront their flaws. They say the right things, help the right causes, condemn the wrong people. But their goodness is brittle, unable to withstand criticism, unable to hold space for the complexity of real life. This is the shadow pretending to be light. It is a mask that says, "I am better than you," when beneath it lies insecurity, fear, and hunger for control. True virtue, Jung believed, is rooted in self-knowledge. It does not need to perform. Chapter 5. The danger of the always good person. The person who believes they are always good is often the least trustworthy. Why? Because they lack the humility to question themselves. They cannot see the harm they cause, because they do not believe they are capable of causing harm. These people can become tyrants in subtle ways, using guilt, silence, and pressure to bend others to their will. Their image of goodness blinds them to the effects of their actions. Jung warned that the refusal to acknowledge one's shadow leads to inflation, the belief in one's moral superiority. And inflated people, though they seem pleasant, are capable of great cruelty in the name of righteousness. Chapter 6. How to spot light without a shadow. So how do you recognize someone who has no visible shadow? They are always agreeable. They never admit they're wrong. They never seem uncomfortable. Their life appears flawless. But if you look closely, you'll find inconsistencies, subtle contempt, lack of boundaries, an inability to handle disagreement, relationships that feel one-sided. These are the warning signs of a person who has not integrated their shadow. Jung would say, trust the person who has wrestled with themselves, not the one who has polished their mask to perfection. Chapter 7. Becoming whole. Kindness after darkness. There is a different kind of kindness. Not the performance of goodness, but a quiet strength that comes from having faced the inner storm and survived it. This is kindness after rage, compassion after grief, wisdom after foolishness. Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming whole. It is the path of integrating the shadow, embracing complexity, and living with honesty. Such people may not be always nice, but they are real, and they are trustworthy, because their light includes their darkness. And that makes it true. Chapter 8. Final thoughts. Why Jung was right. Carl Jung never asked us to stop being kind. He asked us to stop being fake. He asked us to be honest, to go inward, to confront the parts of ourselves we are ashamed of, and through that journey, to discover a deeper, truer goodness on that doesn't need to hide behind a smile. So if you meet someone who is always nice, always perfect, always in control, don't fear them, but don't blindly trust them either. Look deeper, listen closely, and most importantly, do the work in yourself. Because only when you have walked through your own darkness can you become a light for others, one that doesn't blind, but illuminates. A light with a shadow, a self that is whole. Carl Jung never asked us to abandon kindness. He asked us to outgrow the version of kindness that's afraid of the dark. He didn't fear virtue. He feared unearned virtue, the kind that pretends, that performs, that represses, and eventually corrupts. The always nice person is not evil. They are simply incomplete. And often they are lost not only to others, but to themselves. Because without shadow, there is no depth. Without anger, no courage. Without sorrow, no empathy. Without confrontation, no truth. Without darkness, no real light. True goodness is forged, not fabricated. It is not a smile plastered over silence. It is the hard-earned grace that rises after you've made peace with the parts of yourself you once feared. So, if you want to become someone others can truly trust, don't aim to be nice. Aim to be real. Aim to be whole. Aim to be awake to your own shadow. because it is in knowing your darkness that your light becomes meaningful. As Jung would have it, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not perfect, not spotless, but real. And that is a light no one ever needs to fear.